the top left-hand corner of the map, Antiga Shipyard, we have our red Zerg player from Team SCV Life. It is HyuN. And his opponent in the lower right-hand corner from FXO, winner of the last game, it is TAC3.
You know, I love Antiga Shipyard. It's one of those maps where Terran thinks it's good for Zerg, Zerg thinks it's good for Terran, and, you know, Protoss and Zerg, it's the same thing, basically. They both think it's better for the other one most of the time. But I'm
it does seem like that, yeah.
I'm a little surprised. You know, HyuN is like one of the few Zergs that I see consistently pick Antiga Shipyard, because most Protosses actually like playing against Zerg on it. But, yeah, I'll be curious if what he's going to do after seeing, you know, it's always weird when you have a player that just won and then you send out the same race that they just beat to try to beat them too.
That's right.
Like, is it the coach that sees something that players play that HyuN, you know, did he see something that TAC3 did that HyuN is good against? Or does HyuN have a style that just kind of counters what TAC3 did in the last game? It's always kind of curious when you basically say, all right, regame, let's do it again with a new player, and just try to do that again. And this has happened actually 3 times now already, where they had one player of the same race lose and they sent out someone else. Both teams have done it.
And, you know, sometimes it does work that way. Sometimes we've even heard players, I remember during the Gosu match, Kingdom, the Protoss player for Gosu, in the qualifiers basically said, just let me do this. I saw something that was wrong there in the way Huang Xin handled it. I can win this game. Yeah. And ended up doing so. So it's not necessarily out of the realm of possibility. We've also discussed before that up until recently, TSL was largely, well, we've got a lot of Zerg players, and we got Pult, you know? Yeah. So it's changed from that recently, obviously, but TSL still does have that super strong Zerg core.
And with all, you know, when you have a bunch of the same race together, like in VT Gaming when I was running a while, we had so many Protoss players, obviously Huck being the main one, but you give each other so many ideas, you come up with so many different builds, and you help refine each other's plays so well by having so many of the same race on a team. And, you know, TSL, with so many Zerg players, they can work on so many different styles, they can do so many different things. That was actually very smart by HyuN there, keeping the probe while he put up the third. Yeah. And now it's just kind of like, well, are you going to put the pylon at the natural or not? And he probably isn't even going to bother doing it, because it's not really going to delay HyuN's tech at all.
That's right. So, and as we saw out of the last game, you know, Symbol actually did a similar thing to what HyuN's doing right now, which is just make 2 Zerglings. And a lot of times we see those 4 Zerglings right away, but with knowing that he's not likely to be blocked, or if he is, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world, you know, because it's going to be a little bit later before he puts up that third base. That's actually a smart decision to eke out 1 extra drone. It's those little incremental advantages that everyone's finding that keep driving the game forward.
Yeah, and I'm actually curious, both Zergs going pool first. That's, you know, it's not too unusual, but usually you still do see head first, but I guess, you know, they must know, because obviously it's true, that TAC3 likes to block the hatcheries like right away. He doesn't even you know, bother pretending that he's not going to. He just blocks the hatcheries right away, and that's a way to circumvent that pretty easily.
And we'll see now what HyuN is going to do to follow this up. We saw that defensive Ling Roach style up into Infestors pretty early on for Symbol last go around, and TAC3 was able to deal with that quite easily. But this time, we'll see if he decides to go the same approach as his teammate, or if he wants to switch things up and just go for a super quick max.
Yeah, and, you know, if TAC3, you know, tries to go for that 3 base again, like I said, it's very unusual to try to be able to get to that with just 3 Stalkers is all he had when he put down his 3rd Nexus. Right. I've never actually seen a Protoss take a 3rd base that easily, especially on Tomb Valley. You know, he did do a good job of walling it off first, but you want to have some kind of pressure so they can't get up to 3 base, because as you know, we saw last game, when you get into that position, you can just make 5 Colossus real quick like that. There is not a whole lot Zerg can do about it until they have Hive Tech established and they can get to Broodlords or, you know, Infesterling Ultra really quickly. That composition that Zerg can make late game is what stops 3 base Protoss players. But if you don't have that composition, 3 base Protoss players just roll you over.
That's right. But it is very quick. Gas 3 and 4 from TAC3 right at the 6-minute mark. So when you see players doing this, they'll go down a couple of divergent paths. It could be like a Stargate, 4-gate +1, a little bit of pressure, try and deny that 3rd. We could see just an incredible... Okay, well, we're going to find out in just a bit, as he is starting to increase the gas. There's Gateways number 2, 3, and waiting for 4. Waiting for 4. It's going to be here. 150.
There it is.
There
yeah.
it is. Right.
And then a little bit of a faster +1 this time. Last time he didn't start at the +1 until he almost had Twilight Counter already. So a little bit quicker. So here we're going to have some pretty good pressure, I'd imagine, onto the third base. Not going to be an all-in, I'd imagine, but he's going to want to try to put some pretty good pressure, and it looks like probably take his third after that.
Yeah, so much gas saved up, and we'll see if it's going to be largely sentries or if he does have some sort of other tech up his sleeve to go along with this as well.
Could I point something out interesting real quick?
No, you cannot.
He didn't even wall.
Yeah.
Like, he was not afraid at all of aggression after the 2 lanes, and I'm so curious as to, how and, what is the thought process behind this, and the fact that he just knows there's no pressure coming. Either game expanding already. Like, this is unheard of for me that Protoss can expand so easily. Why would Zergs give up 3-base Protoss so quickly when so many people fear 3-base Protoss? It's throwing me for a loop a little bit. I really don't understand it.
Yeah, part of this we've seen out of Korean players recently, though, is that they're not as willing to just put on so much pressure at the beginning of the game, but it seems like Zerg players need to start scouting for it a little bit more. As we can see out of HyuN's vision, he does know that this base is coming up, so we'll see how he wants to respond to it. He's begun Roach production, he has the macro hatch coming up, and he is mining off of 4 gas for the time being, but we haven't seen any other inclination of tech, so he may just decide to start spamming out a bunch of Roaches. We'll find out.
Yeah, he's going to have to do it quickly if he wants to stop this from being an exact repeat of the last game, because he's already putting up the gateway wall, so he's not even using the rocks to his advantage. And once you have the gateway cannon wall up there, it'll be just like last time. Antiga's a little bit harder to hold than in Tomb Valley. Oh, here comes the pressure by TAC3. But right at the same time, HyuN is already making 26 lings. Roach speed on the way, +1 on the way, and he already has how many Roaches on the field? I can't even... 8 roaches already on, so that's actually a pretty scary army for just that middling amount of sentries. Yeah, and it looks like TAC's just going to go home.
And was interesting to note as well, I had a high energy sentry there. Yeah, hallucination is research. I did miss that. So
yeah, that's very very smart for scouting. And actually did send the Phoenix over there into the main right now to get a good look. Yeah, so he sees no Spire, just Roaches. So here comes the fight. It looks like HyuN is making his way in to try to do some pressure before the third is up.
Oh, those were really good force fields. Wow. He's able to trap so many of the Zerglings alone with his +1 attacks as well. They're dying so quickly, and the Roaches have no choice but to go around or maybe even just go home. This force can certainly not assault that, especially now with the Immortal out there as well.
Force fields, and he lost maybe 1 sentry. Such great play by TAC. TAC is impressing me so much this game. If this guy doesn't become one of the better Protoss, I'll be very surprised. I am so impressed by his play.
And it looks like full wall coming up here at the front. We can see another gateway here in a second. But he has plenty enough forces to go ahead and trap that.
He'll probably see that, he sees it, so he'll be up there and he'll be prepared.
That's right, shifting most of his forces up to the top, so there's no way that HyuN's going to be able to get damage done here. Now, he is just remaxing purely off of Roachling, has 34 Roaches now, and is just going to try and headbutt this force to the ground, but he's already gotten to the point where there's full walls up, photon cannons, and a mass amount of sentries, blink stalkers, and, I'm sorry, not blink stalkers, I apologize, and Immortals, though, ready to go.
I really love this position by TAC. Cannon and a wall, and cannon and units. He split perfectly, and now he's like, hee, I made it to 3-base. You can't do anything. Kill me now, or you can't kill me later.
And it looks like HyuN's going to try and kill him now.
Again.
So, yeah, already split so many of those forces apart. These Immortals are just not getting shot down all that quickly. One of these finally may go down, but it's going to pick a lot of kills with it to begin with. Roaches are able to start swinging around the outside with the amount of sentries there, the amount of force fields that have gone down. Yeah, I mean, this whole force is just going to headbutt itself to death. Now, finally, 2 of the Immortals have fallen. Another one did just reinforce straight out of the robotics facility while another one is being produced. But the Immortals are just racking up kills over and over again. He's finally going to lose a few of these sentries, but he kind of survived past that all-important, all-in moment out of the Zerg player.
It looks like, though, he doesn't have enough for the follow-up. It looked like HyuN actually did enough damage that he might actually be able to overflow him with units at this point, because that's not, it's only 4 sentries. They're almost out of energy. He only has 1 Immortal on the field now. Oh, I don't like this way. Okay, it was good. I was going to say, I wouldn't like HyuN to go in that way, but yeah, TAC is in a little bit of trouble. Here is this giant follow-up, 11 Roaches in production, and so many already on the field, and no blink yet. Almost done, but not quite.
That's right, almost finished up, and we'll have a couple of photon cannons in this defense here as well in just a second. Blink is being rushed out. It's 15 seconds away at the moment. More Immortals continuing to reinforce along with a couple of additional sentries, so a little bit more energy there at least to go around. And HyuN, was he really going to go for this base? That is a surprising move. He could get force shielded out. Already loses 2 Roaches. Okay, they almost got away.
Yeah, Well, I really would like to see HyuN expand here. This seems so all in to me if he can't win here, and I don't know if he's going to be able to now with Blink +2 on the way, and he has still a pretty good amount of Immortals.
That's right, and he can't actually suffer the loss of this Warp Gate. It's not the biggest deal in the world. If it gets the Roaches to bite, moving a little bit further, it's just going to open up that counterattack path. That's a real benefit for HyuN. And looks like he's going to try and push in now. The Immortal certainly has to watch out. Oh, he gets surrounded, and it's going to die very, very quickly. A lot of the Roaches are starting to make their way up as well. Stalker's blinking to the back. The force fields were actually pretty decent one more time, but is it enough to stop this tide? There are so many Roaches that are continuing to flood in.
Yeah, just too many Roaches. That one getting surrounded was big, and now it's just Roaches against Stalkers, and not enough Stalkers to deal with this. And he might clean this up, but as you see, 15 more Roaches in production. Oh, 26 Roaches coming out, and 8 more Lings. Now that there's no Immortals on the field, those cannons are all gone, not enough sentries to deal with this. This is just relentless aggression by HyuN, and it looks like HyuN actually might have the economy to overwhelm TAC3.
All right, well, we'll find out. There are still a couple of photon cannons up here over at the side as well. Looks like HyuN wants to really open up that attack path. Former Brood War player here loves being able to attack in multiple places at once and just taxing his opponent's multitasking ability. But, you know, TAC3 is still alive. He's got a reasonable army, not an incredible army, but a reasonable one. He's reinforced with a couple of Immortals. Looks like he'll have a second by the time this actually does attack. HyuN going to try and move through that third one more time, but still, very, very curious position out of both our players.
Oh, nice force field there. Yeah, finally HyuN decided to take a fourth. You know, he's realized he's almost mined out in his main at this point, so he's going to have to do that. But at the same position, TAC3 is still stuck on this tech. He needs Colossus, and he needs them now, or he needs more Immortals, because he is not going to be able to hold this forever. He's losing the battles by a little bit more every single time they fight.
All right, well, we'll see. Looks like he has his Immortals in a little bit better position this go-around, so not having one of those immediately surrounded by Lings is certainly going to help him. HyuN is now maxed on Roaches with +2 upgrades. Ventral Sax is being researched, so he will eventually be able to start dropping into the main to open up yet another attack path for him.
God, this positioning is so good. TAC3 reacting so well every time HyuN moves his army. HyuN moving his army so well, getting great position here again.
All right, well, force fields going down, but a lot of the Roaches are able to cycle around the side, so not many of them are actually split up, and these Immortals are taking so much damage. Another one just popping out, only to walk directly into the line of fire, but now the forces for TAC3 look like they may be enough. He is actually starting to stem the tide up. Roaches blinking on top of them as well and starting to push him back.
Wow, it looks like TAC3 might have held the aggression off, and HyuN is going to have to reconvene at a later time because TAC's army is now just bigger than HyuN's for the first time in all of this. He has managed to hold it off, but he is going to need to replenish his sentries because he's down to just 3. They're out of energy, and he only has 1 Immortal on the field again.
All right, well, we'll see here now as the Blink Stalker count is getting pretty staggeringly high, though, and against small numbers of Hydralisks, as we do see the Hydra Den coming up, they are actually still pretty effective. It's when those Hydras start really building up and they have a Roach buffer that it becomes a problem.
Is this +2 upgrade or +3 we're searching for Protoss?
+3,
yeah, so he is actually doing well, and there's still +0 carapace for Zerg, so he's going to be able to hold this off a little bit easier now, but he needs to get his tech up very quickly, or the Hydras that come in afterwards are going to overwhelm him, and even these Roaches, once they actually start to get, you know, equal upgrades, will be very, very hard for him to hold this. So many Hydras popping out, and that is going to make this even harder to hold.
Well, we'll see if HyuN's going to be able to do damage here. Right now, he is starting to reinforce with those Hydras. If he attacks before the Hydras show up, it would be pretty bad for him, and it looks like he is indeed going to wait, but he gives, TAC enough time to actually bring in a staggering amount of Blink Stalkers. 47 of them on the field right now.
Yeah, 47 Blink Stalkers against, you know, equivalent amount of Roaches, basically. Yeah, 36, a little bit less, but so many Hydras, and now it's going to come down to the position battle again. The creep is all the way up to his 3rd, and a lot of this is going to depend on the force field and the micro of TAC and how HyuN positions himself going into a battle.
And Ventral Sax has finished as well, so we could actually have a drop.
There's finally the Robo Bay.
Hooray!
It's so late. He needed this so long ago, and now it might be too late.
Well, we'll find out. It looks like HyuN wants to push in. He actually sacrifices quite a few Lings there without really doing that much damage, and he's going to replenish it with Hydralisks, but this will allow TAC enough time to start pushing up and trying to do some damage on his own. And there's second robotics facility coming down as well, so we will be able to make 2 Colossi at a time. And with good Blink Micro here, as long as he can start cycling those units to the back, he's actually lost most of them up to the front, hasn't really blinked at all.
Yeah, I think he wanted to get into a better position where he could force field, but no force field's coming, and now he's going to lose the Immortals when the Stalkers bring back. But the reinforcement Stalkers are going to push the Hydras back. 80 Zerglings in production.
Good God, that's the only reason there is a supply advantage for our Zerg player at the moment, as all those Lings are just about to pop up. But our first Colossi are now on the way.
Yeah, and once he gets Colossus range against that army, HyuN will be in a lot of trouble. He's going to have to do some damage right now before these Colossus pop out, or it's going to be an entire another game until he gets Corruptors, because that is so many Blink Stalkers to protect the Colossus, and with just like 2 or 3 Colossus with this Protoss army, it becomes a death ball.
This has just been a continuous 10-minute long attack, essentially, this entire game. So there's not been a lot as far as tech switches going on. As we kind of mentioned, a couple of upgrades are coming up, but that's about
I like this Warp
well.
Prism on the way. If he can snipe down tech buildings while this is going on, that will really do well to equalize and give him some breathing room to finally take a 4th base.
Hallucinated Phoenix does die immediately to those Hydralisks, and looks like HyuN going to be able to put down some creep tumors and have a little bit of energy left over for transfusions as well.
TAC3 is going to run into a little bit of trouble now because his main is mined out and his natural is almost mined out. So he is going to have to do something really quickly in order to try to get some breathing room, because HyuN has moved on, take a 4th, and is actually working on a 5th.
That Changeling does get cleaned up there. So let's see. There is an infestation pit coming up finally for HyuN pretty late in this game. You mentioned the 5th is already coming up. But you know what? This army is pretty staggeringly good now.
This is looking scary now with the 2 Colossus. Now armor upgrades started now that weapons are done. Oh, here comes the Spine Crawler Forest. This game is insane. Like, such good army composition, such good positioning by HyuN and TAC3, and it looks like TAC3 is getting ready to move out as soon as Colossus range is done, and then we'll see who can have... Oh, big mistake there. I don't like that engage for TAC3.
All right, well, he attacks before Colossus range is done, but he still has his Colossi far enough ahead that they're able to deal with these Zerglings pretty quickly up at the front. One of the Colossi did go down very quickly. 2 more are remaining. One of those is actually taking quite a bit of damage. But now range is done, but it's not before 2 Colossi already did die. That being said, though, it looks like HyuN does lose the vast majority of his army, and he's actually losing most of these Spine Crawlers up in the front before they're ever able to get up.
Yeah, HyuN's going to have to get reinforcements, because even though there are Spine Crawlers up, he does not have enough to fight this off right now, even with the... God, there's so many Spine Crawlers. But if he gets those Colossus back, those Hydras are just going to melt, and the Warp Prism position also making it so the reinforcements are doing well. I cannot believe that TAC3 has finally managed to push out of his base.
Oh, this is ridiculous. He's been sitting there for over 20 minutes, but it looks like he finally has a little bit of maneuverability. He's going to have to replenish that army, but then again, look at that. Mined out of his main, mined out of his natural, getting close to mined out of his 3rd.
It might be too late because he has this army, but he cannot keep up with the army of HyuN now that HyuN has taken the multiple bases, and he's going to have to use that Warp Prism to good effect.
But HyuN did actually go ahead and he sacrificed about 15 or 16 drones to put down a bunch of Spine Crawlers in that defense, and he doesn't have much of an economy himself as well. In fact, he's down by 23 supply.
Oh, he's got to watch that Colossus positioning. He doesn't have a lot of force fields left. He has to be really careful because his Blink Stalkers aren't nearly as big as they were before. And amazingly, TAC3 is actually ahead in supply right now.
That's right. So now the Roach is just trying to get anything done, but they can't bear against the might of the Colossi, which are really starting to rack up kills. And it looks like a base may go down. No, it looks like TAC3 going to move to the middle of the map.
I cannot believe that TAC3 has managed to claw his way all the way back in this game. It looks like he was dead to rights. But 2 Colossus with the Warp Prism, the Observer to kill off all the creep tumors, and he still has enough sentries to force field off the middle. HyuN is going to have to do something to react to this, because he is just going to lose if he keeps trying to fight this straight up with a lesser army.
That's right. He actually has the worst economy than the Protoss player at the moment. He is finally getting this space saturated, but now finally we see that TAC3 is starting to lose most of his resources.
Oh, he's just pulling probes to add to the army because he realized he was already saturated. Unless he's okay, it looks like he's remote mining. That's also very smart.
Yeah, he'll need another Nexus here, though.
But TAC3 now, he's pushed his way into the middle of HyuN's rally point, and he's going to be able to do so much damage with this death ball. There's not a lot of good ways he can engage here.
Wow.
That narrow choke points on both sides, he cannot maneuver very well.
That's right. So now TAC3 is just continuing to crush this army. 2-2 upgrades are done for those Roaches, but it's 3-1, so basically even upgrades for these 2 players. The Colossi just continuing to deal out damage. GG's! And TSL loses another game. FXO going up for the first time in the set.